Hey guys, in this video I'm going to talk about gaining back your attention, how to do it so that you can actually get things you want to get done in life done. I'm not talking about this from a kind of hyper productivity perspective. I'm talking about this from a sense of like wanting to achieve the things that you want to do in your life for a sense of your own purpose. So how do you get your attention back? I think the first thing that I did that was crucial was kind of take an audit of my life and make a list of two things. One, what do you want to spend more time on? And two, what are you willing to spend less time on? Because we're all so busy that I think if you just say to yourself, I want to add, you're not going to get very far. At least that was the case for me. I was already burned out and quite frankly tired all the time. And so to add things in without taking things away never really worked. I would last for a couple of weeks and then I'd just give up and end up going for the comfortable route of watching things online. Basically the easeful route that didn't require effort because I was so busy all the time. Then in terms of more specifically what you want to spend less time on, you need to work out ways to reduce them as a means of distraction. Without wanting to generalize, I suspect many people will have on that list things like spending time aimlessly scrolling on your phone, going on YouTube on your laptop, watching Netflix back to back on TV. Quite a lot of them might have to do with technology. I'm just assuming. I might be generalizing for myself too much, but that was for me the main. When I made those lists, that was the main thing that I was like, whoa, okay, actually, when I pay attention to how much time I'm spending and how much of my energy and attention and focus I'm spending on these things, it isn't proportionate to the amount of like joy I get out of them. A couple of the ways, which I'll talk about through my own personal experience, because I can only talk for myself, but I'll give you three of the ways by way of example that I have taken that list of things I want to reduce and I've reduced them. So for example, I identified that my phone was a big sucker for me, like big, not only time, but also energy, focus. It often led me to feeling irritable and angry because there was so much information coming at me through this device that I was so used to having just stuck in the palm of my hand. So with my phone, I'm experimenting currently. I'm switching from using a smartphone to using a flip phone. The second thing is my laptop. I noticed when I switched from using my smartphone all the time to using predominantly my flip phone, that the time that I shifted from my phone shifted onto using my laptop without me even really realizing it. And I was spending a lot more time doing things like scrolling on YouTube. I also write a newsletter on Substack, so I would find myself even in the notes section on Substack just because I was being distracted. So on my laptop now, I now do three things. I have three extensions on my Chrome browser that I really like, that I would recommend, I guess. First one is Stay Focused, which blocks distracting websites. You can set it up to block whichever websites you find most distracting for a set period of time or a set time in the day, and it literally pops up at a certain point for whatever you set it to and says you can't access this website anymore. So I use that for things like YouTube, Substack, so anything that's vaguely social media related, also for things like emails. The other ones are uBlock Origin, which actually I think my husband put this on here, but I believe that is the one that blocks ads. And the third one is called Unhook, which removes YouTube recommendations, comments, related videos, the shorts tab. And again, you can adjust the settings so that it's specific to you. You can hide some things, keep some things in there. It depends what you find most distracting. For me, personally, I put all of it on. So all I can see when I go on YouTube is my subscriptions. And then the third thing that I'm reducing is TV. I'm certainly not getting rid of TV. TV is one of my favorite things ever. I love shows. I love movies. I find it incredibly relaxing, but I don't want to spend as much time on TV as I have been, mostly because I have so many other things that I want to do as well. And lots of the time, the reason why I get stuck watching so much TV is less because I'm making a conscious choice to, and more so because I'm on Netflix and I can watch like 10 episodes in a row and Netflix isn't going to stop me unless I do. The things that I'm doing with TV are things like watching it at certain times of the day, unless I'm watching like a movie on a DVD that like physically once I've put it in, it's going to stop and I'm going to have to move and I'd have to get up and put another DVD in to be able to watch another movie. There's enough friction there for me to think, okay, well actually maybe I should go and do something else. Whereas with Netflix, for example, there's no manual it's like on a timer, isn't it? Once you finish an episode, it comes up and says 3, 2, 1, and you're on to the next already. So the friction is really low, which means that it's very easy for you to continue consuming media, even if maybe if you stop to think about it, you wouldn't choose to do that for the next hour. You'd choose to go and, I don't know, go on a walk or make art or whatever. So those are the 3 things for me that I'm trying to reduce. So then you've got your list of things you want to reduce. You've got the ideas of how you're going to do that. The next step in your planning is thinking, okay, in terms of what I want to add in, like how can I do that in a sustainable and reasonable way? So there are a few tools, again, I'm going to read them to you. How many are there? 6 tools that I use to manage like what I'm adding into my life. So the first thing is time blocking, which I've talked about before. It's an idea that I came across in Cal Newport's book. I use it every single day. Essentially, it's a timeline and you fill it out with what you're going to do that day in blocks. This is back to front because I'm on my front camera, but you have the time of day set out on this side, and then you can block out how you want to spend your time. The beauty of this for me is that it's broad enough to be able to switch around during the day, and it's not like super prescriptive, but it makes me think at the beginning of the day about broadly what I'm going to do and how I'm going to spend my time. The second thing is the idea of taking breaks from focus, not from distraction. This is another tip that I picked up from Cal Newport in his book Deep Work. The idea is that in this world where there is so much distraction, especially from things like our phones, my days were dictated by the flow of my attention being distracted. So the status quo was that I would be distracted by my phone, by the internet, and between that distraction, I would try and find areas of focus where I could finish that book or, write that essay or do that piece of work that I needed to do that piece of admin. And Cal says we need to flip that on its heads, and instead of having it as a distracted world where you're trying to find focus, have it as a focused world where you're allowing yourself distraction every now and again. That paired with the time blocking for me has changed the game. The third thing is to think about and agree with yourself a ritual around the new thing you're adding. So think about where you're going to do it, for how long, and how you're going to do it, and maybe who you're going to do it with. The fourth thing is no adding like 10 things at a time. We need to think small here, which is hard. I found that very, very difficult. I'm someone who wants to do a million things at once. But if you can really work on that and try and rein it in to 1 or 2 things. I mean, now I have like 1 project on the go at once. And yeah, it feels sometimes a bit understimulating, but at the same time, the progress that I'm making on that, because I'm actually giving it my focused attention, is beyond what I've ever been able to achieve. And that sounds like so exaggerated, but I'm really not exaggerating. As someone who has ADHD and who really struggles with focus, I've done more in the 2 months I've been experimenting with this stuff that I'm explaining on this project than I've done on the 20 projects that I tried to do last year. Small number of goals is really, really key. And it means that you'll get through them more quickly because you'll have a list of 5 things you want to do this year. Do them one at a time. You'll get through them by the end of the year. But if you try and tackle everything at once, you're not going to get through those 5 things in the year because you're just constantly going to be overwhelmed by them. The next thing is focus on the number of hours you spend on these things. So the kind of the deep effort that you make to do these things as opposed to the output. I think a good example of this in my experience is reading. I always struggled to read, partly because I would give myself these ridiculous goals for reading. I'll read 52 books a year or whatever, an arbitrary goal that I pick out of nowhere. And I'd be super overwhelmed by that because if I'd go a week without reading, I'd think, well, I might as well just give up now because that's not going to happen. Whereas if you focus on the number of hours or the amount of effort that you put in to the thing without having an arbitrary goal, you'll be really surprised at how quickly that effort and that time that is not distracted, it is deep work, as Cal would call it, adds up. The last thing is weekly and monthly reviews and planning. And this, again, as soon as I say this, it just sounds so boring. I used to think that planning was boring. And to be honest with you, sometimes it is. I'm not always in the mood for planning. But I really try to sit down every week and then every month and look at the stuff that I've discussed in this video. So everything that I'm doing that I'm really enjoying and I want to do more of, and everything that I'm doing that I'm like, actually, that's a distraction. That's not something I'm consciously choosing to do or intending to do. And I'd rather try and work out a way to minimize that or get rid of it completely. I'll plan how I'm going to do that for the next month, and then I'll check in again. And it's like an iterative process, because the thing is, our attention has been completely screwed by things like social media. I mean, I struggle with it anyway because I have ADHD, but the pull of being online for someone like myself with ADHD is just so strong because of the rewards it gives you. And it takes a long time, I think, or at least in my experience. So far, I'm 2 months in. It feels like it's taking a long time to disentangle myself from those habits, from being distracted all the time, because being distracted, quite honestly, it feels fine in the moment. It's only afterwards that I'm like, oh, I feel terrible, and I've not actually done anything that makes me feel like I'm getting to the places I want to be in life, or like, it's not even about getting to places where you can feel successful. It's about feeling as though you're doing things that make you genuinely feel fulfilled. Yeah, the only way that I can keep an eye on that is through the kind of weekly and monthly check-ins. The last thing I would just say is that, like, this is such a big process. Cal Newport says that it's easier to reduce things once you've added things in. So, like, for example, with social media, if you just get rid of it completely, like cold turkey, and you don't add anything else in, you're going to be anxious as all hell. You're not going to know what to do with yourself. It's going to be more likely that you'll fail. That's his hypothesis. And to be honest with you, I think I agree with that, because that's basically what happened to me. The last few times that I've tried my digital detoxes, I failed because I haven't set up any of this framework that I've just described to you. I've just gone in cold turkey and not thought about how I'm going to feel or what I will want to do with my time when I suddenly have so much of it because I'm not online. So I know I said at the beginning that you don't want to add too much and too quickly, but like, you do want to add enough that when you start to reduce the things in your life that you're trying to get rid of or reduce, you don't suddenly feel like you're super bored, understimulated, and just like raring to get back on social media after 2 days. As with all my videos about these types of topics, this is not like a moral competition in any way. I enjoy talking about these things. I enjoy trialing these things out in my life, and so I share them merely in the event that you are interested too. Yeah, so anyway, I hope that was interesting, and if you have any questions, let me know in the comments and I might respond with another video. And I write more about this stuff in my newsletter, which is linked in the description box if you'd like to check that out. Yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Bye.